Good evening, everyone. At this time, I will call to order the business meeting for the Faribault Public Schools School Board here on March 17th, 2025. Ms. Steves, do we have a quorum present?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of you who are here in person and those who are watching online. And would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda item number 2 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
So, second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau, for the motion, and Mr. Wolf for the second. Any discussion? Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 3, recognitions, awards, and presentations. There is none this evening. Agenda item number 4, items of information. School Board Representative, Ms. Jillian Huberty.
Hi, so I just have a short report tonight, and I was just going to share with you about how Faribault DECA did, because they just had the state conference 2 weekends ago. So Faribault DECA did pretty good at state. There's over 3,000 students competing there. So I'm just going to list off some of the awards that were won, and then try and sell you on donating. So just wait. So Jillian Huberty got a second place trophy in apparel and accessories marketing role play. Jillian Huberty got a third place trophy in advanced level interview. Javelin Vagueness got a third place trophy in entry-level interview. Lexi Berger and Hannah Peterson placed 5th in their school-based enterprise food service. Bree Velasquez and Kelsey Vigesa placed 11th in the school-based enterprise retail operations. Adam Wallace received a top 25 personal finance exam medal. And then Freddie's Locker Room, school-based enterprise, food and retail were all gold certified. And then we reached Thrive chapter campaigns and promotional, ethical leadership, community service, and membership. So what that means is that Faribault DECA did really good. Minnesota DECA itself is really, really well. They placed really well at the international conference, which has all 50 states and then multiple different countries. So for Faribault, as small of a school we are compared to a lot of suburbs, placing this much is amazing. So that was awesome. We did really great. There are 6 girls who are going to the international conference, one of them being me, which is at the end of April. And on that note, we have a GoFundMe up if you want to help send money to donate to help support the families. Each family has to pay for like the price of the plane ticket and some of the costs. So if you want to send, donate to that GoFundMe. Otherwise, you can also send checks right to Faribault DECA if you are interested in help families covering those expenses. That is all my report, but Faribault DECA did really good, so tell people about that and to join.
Very good. Thank you, Jillian. Items of information, school board members. Anyone have anything to contribute today? Ms. Boudreau.
Just say I was privileged to be one of the judges for the Future Chef Contest, along with Superintendent Venti, and another, I don't remember the other guy's name. Sorry, Jamie. He was
Scott
at the high
Morrissey.
school. Scott Morrissey,
Yes.
yes. And that was enjoyable. And 3 kids, 5th graders, we had tostadas, we had a smoothie, and we had a sloppy joe. That was fun. And I'm enjoying being a reading partner at Lincoln with the kindergarten student.
Any other board
Mr.
members?
Chair.
Mr. Wolf.
Following on Ms. Boudreau's comments, I too am a reading partner. We've done it the last 3 weeks. I'm a partner with a co-worker, Todd Markman, and it's been great. We're with a young kindergartner, and it's been really rewarding, and look forward to the next several weeks before it wraps up. So I would encourage anybody and everybody to volunteer for Reading Partners. It's a great program. I think they said they filled all 58 volunteer slots that they needed, so really great. So thank you.
Very good. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Moore.
Yeah, I've got a few things here. One of
The first thing is the Facilities Committee. They met last Thursday. I just want to report that we're looking at the lawn service quotes, and I think for all of the schools. That's 3 applications, and I think there was two companies that put in bids, and I'm not sure how detailed you want me to be. What do you think, Chad? Chad was there too. And then also for HVAC testing and balancing quotes, and we looked at the bids for that, and I think Kane is going to be giving us a little bit more information on that. He also talked about the glycol replacement. So Chad, I don't know if I should go into in depth in any of this or not.
No, you're probably good. We do have Facilities Committee
Agenda
later on
item.
in the agenda.
What? Oh, we do? I didn't
Yeah.
even know.
Sure, right?
Okay.
That'll-
So I shouldn't talk about
That'll make
that.
that report go rather quickly.
Okay. There was this came to my attention this weekend, and I would like to put this out. There was a study by Mendoza, and I do have that in here, indicating that, and I'm going to read it so I don't take forever, that a poor quality diet may lead to brain changes associated with depression and anxiety. And researchers found that unhealthy eating habits reduce gray matter and alter neurotransmitter levels in the brain. Moreover, the research revealed it was a circular relationship between diet, brain health, and mental health. We're talking and mental health well-being. And this was in the journal that it was by the authors were. It was in 2025 Journal of Nutritional Neuroscience. It was also published online too. But one of the things, according to the CDC, and this was data from 2018-19, children with a current mental health problem, and we're talking children ages 3 to 17, 53% received treatment or counseling from a mental health professional, and 43% took medication for an emotional concentration or behavioral condition. For depression, 79% received counseling or treatment. For anxiety, it was 59% received counseling or treatment. And ages 12 to 17, 60% received counseling or treatment. We know that scientific research is never absolute, and we're always questioning, and that's what research is about. Based on this newly published research, I had to ask the question, what if we are treating and counseling our students when it's due to the processed foods that we are eating? This research suggests that people, I think with good intentions, are medicating or counseling our students when it simply might be the chemicals in the food that they eat. In light of this, I really think it is absolutely necessary to step back and thoroughly review the criteria we are using to refer our Faribault Public School students to counseling and or treatment services, especially through health finders and within our system and outside agencies. I think maybe we should look at the nutritional aspect first, because we need to be absolutely sure that it is a nutritional problem before we further medicate our children. From a financial standpoint, we don't want to be sued over something like this, because this is new research that's coming out, and I was very concerned when I saw this. I just saw this last weekend. Secondly, I've only got 2 things left, and they're shorter. I have been initially reviewing the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the executive orders that go with it in compliance with this act. And even our Attorney General, Ellison, has stated that federal law supersedes state law. I was notified as of February 28th of this year, all DEI must be purged from our school systems. If not, we are in danger of losing federal funding dollars. And it's already noted that 15 Minnesota school districts are now under investigation and could be taken to court. And this is going to be a trickling down effect, I think. Also, if federal grant money has been used, they can possibly be called, I don't know about this, but possibly can be clawed back, this money, through an exclusionary clause. I think the school board and those in administration need to take this very seriously, because we could be sued, or we could be losing federal money over this. Finally, I guess it's a question that I need to be asked. Maybe it's with our policies, but and I noticed this weekend too, lots of things this weekend. Can the health authorities come in and administer immunizations or shots without parental consent? I'm hoping that maybe, Mr. Benty, you can, when you speak, because I'd like to know that. I noticed it was in policy 515, and so I just noticed that this weekend. So, and that's one thing I think I'd like to you to address at some point. So, thank you. That's it.
Any other board members there? I'll just have a few things back to what's happening with our kids in school here. First of all, congratulations to all the activities and athletic teams for their seasons. Just to be on a team is something to be rewarded of and honored. And all those that gained all conference and individual awards, congratulations. Jillian took away my thunder here for the DECA program. Known in not only Minnesota, but the upper Midwest of really just a quality program and how kids perform in that program. And I want to congratulate them as well. But also congratulate, I don't know if we did it last month or whatever, but our middle school math. I believe 2 teachers took 4 teams or a group of kids over to Mankato to compete in math competitions in Mankato. This had to be at least 3 weeks ago or whatever. And one team actually came in 4th of all the teams from southern Minnesota that were there. So it was great to see that. So thank you, students, for your efforts. Thank you for teachers, administrators, and everyone for the curriculum and giving our kids what they need to really fly high, be fly-high Falcons. So there we are. Mr. Bent, before I turn it over to you, I'm going to go back to student board representative because I see ECLE just came, and I believe you might have something as a student report. Jillian told me you might want to contribute, so if you would like to do that, take the microphone and share it with us, please. So welcome, EC, and it was great to hear from you.
I just wanted to report that a few weeks ago that I had gone with a few other students to Youth Capital for Advocacy Day, and that was a really amazing experience as we had gotten to meet with some legislators, worked on some advocacy training programs, and I feel that that was a really great opportunity for me because I got to meet with their legislature and talk about how I could maybe someday maybe be interested in maybe going on to some of those leadership roles and just even be able to go to those training sessions and being able to see all those schools being there to advocate for students is something that was just eye-opening for me. And then also being that also just in general was we didn't take a lot of students, which was really too bad. I think there was a group of 5 of us, which maybe next year, I hope that we could take a lot more because I feel like a lot more students would be open to that. And then at the end of the day, I just want to thank Ms. Zerbergen, our youth engagement coordinator here at the high school for planning that out and for taking all of us to a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Also from a board perspective, board chair perspective especially, we are so fortunate to have 2 outstanding student representatives here on our board. So thank you for that very much. So Mr. Benty, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a few different pieces here. So first is Senior Victor Espinoza Chaley has been awarded the prestigious DEA SE Scholarship from the University of St. Thomas, valued at over $210,000 over the next 4 years. It's a full tuition scholarship. It recognizes academic excellence and leadership. So a huge shout out and congratulations to Victor. Congratulations to sophomore Asher Ferris, who placed 6th at the boys' state swimming and diving championships held at the University of Minnesota. Our own Brian from our ALC was nominated for the prestigious Minnesota Teacher of the Year Award. Brian's been a dedicated math teacher at Faribault Area Learning Center for the past 10 years. In February, 45 Faribault Middle School students traveled to Welch Village for a Learn to Ski Day. After completing their lessons, they were free to explore the slopes and enjoy one of Minnesota's favorite winter activities. As Mrs. Boudreau said, I got to be a judge for the Sodexo's Future Chef competition last week, along with herself and Mr. Scott Morrissey, our Dean of Students at Jefferson Elementary. Congratulations to Olivia Harmon on her Sloppy Joes. She came in third. Barrett Cowan had a smoothie that placed second, and Vera Espinoza had some chicken tostadas that were the winner that night. So all three were very delicious and excellent, and it was a tough choice, I know that. So our Lincoln fourth graders amazed us with their procedural reports. They demonstrated everything from making pancakes to folding a t-shirt, explaining the steps along the way. Huge thanks to families who joined us and supported their students. Mrs. Weaver's class visited the Bell Museum at the University of Minnesota. They observed and compared objects like scientists would. They studied a cockroach and a toad, and they created animal habitats, and it was a great learning experience for them. Roosevelt SOAR students prepared sweet surprises for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students that were taking their MCA tests. Our McKinley Early Childhood Multicultural Festival was a huge success this year. We invited all of our early childhood students, their families, to explore cultures from around the world. There was a story, information booths, face painting, coloring, sensory tables, bracelet making, and much more. It was a wonderful opportunity to bring families from diverse cultures for fun and meaningful celebration. And then just 2 upcoming pieces. One, this Friday will be a showing of Moana 2 at 6 o'clock at the middle school auditorium, and that is free and open to the public. And then all expected parents and those with a baby under 1 year, is that you, Mr. Wolf? Do you have a little one at home? No.
Not unless you're sharing something new with me.
If you do, you're invited to a baby celebration at the FEC, Faribault Education Center, on April 5th from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. So, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Benti. You have our attention with those things.
I hope my wife doesn't read about it in the newspaper.
Move on to agenda item number 5, public comment. Before we begin public comment, I just have a few things to say. As a reminder to all of those here tonight, public comment is a time for people who are within our community and people who wish to address the board. Us 7 of us up here addressing the board. And my expectations are that these comments are appropriate and professional, and that we are honorable and respect our speakers that come and present, have a public comment to the board during and after the presentation, their comments. So I'd like to thank you all for that, and so we can move forward with that. Our first public comment is from Yvette Marthaler, and her topic is diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And so when you get to the microphone, if you'd simply, former board member, introduce yourself, and you may begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellingham. Thank you for the opportunity to make a comment tonight. My name's Yvette Marthaler. I am a former school board member and still a Faribault resident and community member. And I just wanted to come and say I hope the board appreciates the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion as a framework for our public schools. I see it on the wall behind you. It's there, and it's a framework for the work that you do in public education that provides an opportunity for all students. It's not a bias. It's not some sort of a hidden agenda to treat other students unfairly. The executive orders that are being issued are just orders. They're not laws. And they're based in some sort of victim mentality that someone's being harmed by people being empowered and included and getting equity in their education. So I'm a strong advocate, to say the least, and I just want to express that a lot of community members do support that policy continuing in our public schools. And thank you so much for your service and your time.
Thank you, Ms. Marthaler. Our second public comment is Mike Lampert, and his comment, or his topic, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. Again, my name is Mike Lambert. I am a Faribault graduate and a current Faribault taxpayer. You've all been copied on a letter from Ms. Kathy Hoban demanding the elimination of any diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the district under threat of funding cuts if the district doesn't comply with executive orders, which are currently being challenged in court. Meanwhile, the Trump administration plans to abolish the Department of Education, has cut its workforce in half, axed protections for LGBTQ and non-white students, and cut billions from public schools, leading to budget cuts, larger class sizes, and difficulties in hiring quality teachers. But Mrs. Hoban wants you to eliminate the few policies on discussion of race and sexual and gender identity, and the requirements that all curriculums be anti-racist. Can't think of anything more pathetic than terrorizing the smallest, most vulnerable communities who want nothing more from you except their right to exist, when we've got much bigger issues at hand. DEI has been widely and falsely described as indoctrination in our schools. Let's spell this out. Diversity brings together different genders, races, sexual orientations, and religions. Equity ensures that all individuals can succeed. Inclusion fosters environments where everyone feels valued. I attended Faribault Junior High in the 1970s, and in my class we had one Black, one Native American, and one Asian student. There was never an effort by the school to foster a basic understanding of diversity, and I saw personally how it affected my classmates. Faribault Senior High School in the 1980s was not a safe space for this gay kid. I watched in horror as the jocks dragged suspected faggots into the restrooms for swirlies and beatings. There was never an effort by the school to foster inclusion. I could never dream then about acceptance for who I am, and inclusion is not indoctrination. I've expressed my concerns before regarding some board members' many attempts to illegally discriminate against the gay and transgender communities, and I will continue to do so. By the way, do you know how many school-age trans students are identified nationwide? Athletes? 5 nationwide. We need to create a culture where everyone is respected and valued, not a place that encourages bigotry. And that is why we need diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools for students, staff, and administration. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Our next public comment person is Janet Moline, and her topic is civil and parental rights. Good evening.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Janet Moline. I wanted to discuss parental rights and civil rights. Enrollment in 2009 was 4,042, and now it's under 3,000, more than 25% drop in 15 years. I've heard it described as white flight, but consider the possibility that it is poor policy, programming, and educational outcome. We had entire grades in single-digit proficiency at the end of last year, and almost 25% of the kids did not graduate, or students, I should say. So I think the first step to fixing the problem is to admit there is one, right? And I talked to well over 1,000 people last summer, and nobody said they left because of racial or gender identity. Last week I spoke with a medical service provider, and did you know the Health Finder organization that you've allowed into our schools is referring children as young as 12 years old for medical services without parental consent. And do you think that your 12-year-old has the maturity or hormonal stability to make critical life choices without parental guidance on issues like gender dysphoria or what is emotional distress at 12 years old? Then I thought, well, maybe you just didn't realize, because you did vote not to review the contracts that you were voting on. Maybe you just don't know that was occurring. I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt.
But I do want to go back to the doge.gov, identifying funds that support DEI programs that violate civil rights laws. It is important it is immoral to subvert the civil rights of many to enrich a few. And they go back to the Orwell's Animal House. You know, we're all created equal, but some are more equal than others, apparently. And I think DEI, you talk about that, but you first have to divide one body of students into multiple groups to define that. And so you've created the problem that you think you want to address. Many, if not all, of the grants that you've accepted have components of DEI programming. Please consider the removal of those programs that usurp or violate civil and parental rights. And I don't think it has to go through the courts. As my reading, several of those grants have cancellation clauses that don't have a trigger. So it's possible that those will be canceled without any judicial oversight. And I do thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moline. Our last public comment tonight will be from Carolyn Treadway, and her topic is federal education funding cuts. Good evening.
Hi. I'm Carolyn Treadway, and I'm deeply concerned about the damage to Faribault schools and its students with the legislation that has been passed and is proposed that will cut federal funding for special education and the school lunch program. In addition, the dismantling of the Department of Education will have a devastating effect on Faribault schools and therefore eventually district taxpayers. In addition, Title I and English learner programs will need to be cut. Special ed services are federally mandated. Therefore, students in the general population will most adversely be affected with opportunities. Taxpayers will be asked to cover more of the education costs since general education funding will need to be diverted even more than it currently is to mandated special education programs. Faribault's youth will be the primary losers. According to data I received today from the FPS Finance Director and Superintendent Benty, Faribault schools are set to lose $1.1 million in title programs, $1.1 million in special ed, $2.5 million for school lunches, over $1 million for community learning center grants for after-school and summer programming, and $400,000 for Fund 1 grants. This totals $6.15 million in federal funding, or about 10% of the FPS budget. If FPS loses this money, it would have to substantially reduce services it currently offers to students and our community. In addition to slashing the budgets of school districts like ours, current federal actions have targeted diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe this is a political decoy for directing more resources to middle-class white students. In the end, it's a rationalization to withhold education support to brown, black, and economically disadvantaged students in favor of middle-class white students. Equity seems to be the biggest target in discussions at our local level. Equity is simply giving each student what they need to succeed and to reach their highest potential. My grandchildren haven't been served by Title I. They didn't need it. Does that mean those who do benefit shouldn't have those services? My grandchildren weren't served by a gifted and talented program. Does that mean those students who would benefit from that program shouldn't receive it? That's equity, providing what each child needs to succeed. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Treadway. Moving on to agenda item number 6, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of minutes from the February 18th, 2025, February 27th, 2025, and March 3rd, 2025 meetings. Employment, additional assignments and other, and authorization of payments, transfers, and investment account. Is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Steves, for the motion, second by Mr. Wolf. There's no discussion on consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 7, District Advisory Committee, there's no report. Agenda item number 8, the Policy Committee. 8A is Policy Committee minutes. So Dr. Moore and Ms. Steves, if you would go over the Policy Committee minutes for the board and the public. Anything you have there?
Yeah, so we had, the majority of our discussion was surrounding the 2 new policies that were presented. A couple, we had 6, I believe, 4 that were up for revision. Most of those were clerical or statute updates, updates to legal reference. The 2 new policies, one, the proposed policy 598, information security. I'm going to butcher the description of that, so I'll refer to Mr. Benti. But the second proposed policy 599, social media policy, was tabled to May 6th, and we will be obtaining some legal review.
Does Dr. Moore have any follow-up on the minutes?
No, I think Cassie did a good job.
Okay, great.
Yes, as I said, the policy that was tabled, the attorneys will be reviewing that to check on the freedom of expression, the First Amendment rights. So,
Very good. Thank you.
yeah, that's it.
Move on to 8B, first reading of policies. So our first reading of policies today is policy 503, student attendance. Policy 507, school resource officers. Policy 613, graduation requirements. Policy 615, testing accommodations, modifications, and exemptions for IEPs, Section 504 plans and LEP students. And a new policy 598, information security. Any questions for the policy committee or Mr. Benti on the first reading of those policies? Okay, none heard. We'll move on to 8C. Approval of the second reading of policy. So board members, through consultation here with various board members, I'm going to pull policy 418, policy 515, and policy 721 to be acted on their own individual wordings. I will entertain a motion for approval of second reading of policies for policy 519, which is interviews of students by outside agencies. Policy 522, Title IX sex non-discrimination policy, and policy 614, school district testing plan and procedure. Is a motion for approval of those 3 policies.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Knutson. And do we have any discussion on that motion of any of those 3 policies? Discussion? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we will move to policy, we'll go back up to policy 418. 418 is drug-free workplace, drug-free school. So could I have a motion, please, for approval of policy 418, drug-free workplace, drug-free school?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. And do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Boudreau, thank you. And discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Moore.
Yes, thank you. I move to amend policy 418 by adding, it is on page 418-5, it's section 6A2, by adding the words, refers students, and I'd add the words 18 or over, to local resources where students may obtain, and et cetera, et cetera. And then and at the end of the paragraph, I would like to add the following paragraph. Refer students under 18 with parental guardian knowledge and consent to local resources where students may obtain medically accurate information about cannabis use and substance use, including but not limited to the use of fentanyl or mixtures containing fentanyl and treatment for a substance use disorder.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Is there a second to that amendment? Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a second. And before we begin discussion, board members, I should have referred you, in your packet, we did provide you copies with what was emailed to me, and I forwarded to you, each individual board member here, so it is in your packet, the words, et cetera, what's added. So with the discussion now, Dr. Moore, I'll have you speak to your motion for amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I think it's vitally important that, especially children's brains, and we know this biologically, their brains are not fully developed till the mid-20s. So the fact that I think it's very important in our society, 18-year older is considered an adult. I think it's very important that students under 18, especially with this last sentence in treatment for a substance use disorder, that they have parental knowledge and consent on that. And, you know, students, even children can't get a tattoo without parental consent. And so we're talking about maybe treatment for a substance use disorder. And I think the parents need to be involved in that, or the guardians. So that's what my logic is.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolf.
two things, one pertaining to the amendment, or I'm sorry, one not pertaining to the amendment, but Superintendent Benty, I'll just say that I was gone when when the board approved the additional resources at the high school. And I think it very clearly states in here that our buildings are supposed to be drug-free and alcohol-free and tobacco-free and everything else of that nature free. So anyway, I hope we get that resource and that helps in that area. To Dr. Moore's amendment, Dr. Moore, I agree with you in terms of having parents understand when kids are referred and all that. I know if my child was there, I'd certainly like to know. I don't know all the medical reasons why or why not. My issue with voting in favor of your amendment is simply that there is roughly 3/4 of a page of legal references and roughly a third or a quarter of a page of cross-references. And I have no idea what all those mean in there, but they mean something. That's why they're listed in there. So if this amendment was to move forward, I would ask that Superintendent Benty and that he review it with our legal staff to find out what the heck does it mean if we start adding stuff to this. Once again, I have no issues with adding a parent be alerted. Me as a parent, I would like to be alerted, but I would just ask that that would take place before I could support something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Chair, should we, in light of your remarks there, is it possible to table this then?
I'd like to finish discussion first because I
Okay.
have something important that might,
Okay.
before you move to do that. So in remembering this, I do believe at one point this board did ask Mr. Benty with these amendments, to send this to council, to our district attorney. She did reply, Ms. Margaret Skelton did reply, and it was sent out to all board members in an email, has to be, I'm going to say a month ago, approximately in that time. But anyway, I would like to read what our attorney says regarding and word for word, the amendments basically that was, with what was put forward. And she says, regarding the board's suggested amendment to policy 418, section 6A2, the current language is taken directly from Minnesota statutes, section 120B-215, subdivision 2. Under subdivision 3 of that same statute, it requires school districts to allow a parent or adult student to opt out of cannabis instruction and must inform parents and adult students of this right to opt out. The language is already stated under Policy 418, Section 6C. That statute does not require the district to obtain parental consent. If the district adopts the school board member's suggested amendment to Policy 418, Section 6A2, it would require the district to obtain consent from every parent prior to providing the cannabis instruction. This is going above and beyond what is statutorily required of the district and exposes the district to potential claims of policy violation if the district does not receive consent from all parents prior to teaching that content. Instead, the current policy complies with Minnesota law and puts the burden on the parents to opt out. Regarding the board member's suggestion amendment to Policy 418, Section 7, and I think I'm going to wait for that one. So, with the next one. So, what the attorney is saying, she recommends the district keeps the current policy and do not adopt the proposed amendments. That's what I have. That's what was replied there, and we go from there. So, is there any further? So, Mr. Wolf, I think that kind of answers your question.
Thank you.
On statute and things like that. So, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms.
I just
Dr. Wolf.
believe this
I'm
is
sorry,
under
Dr.
the-
Moore.
This is my comment. Under the Wallace administration, I think we are systematically eroding parental rights. And I think it's time for somebody to
Okay,
stand
we're going
up
to
for it.
focus on
Yes,
your
but that's what my comment is.
comments to the
And
motion.
that's why
Then
I
make it-
am putting this amendment forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, our attorney has no political
No.
bias one way or another, right? That our attorney is a third party
Yes.
and has been our attorney for many, many years.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, the opt-out procedure, so if I chose to not allow my kids to learn about this stuff, drug and alcohol abuse or assistance, that the opt-out procedure is on our district policy site, right?
Yes, so parents can opt out. They have to still meet the standards of the law, though.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make one additional comment. My real problem with this is referring to the treatment. And I'm concerned that students are getting treatment without parental knowledge. Thank you.
Welcome. Further discussion? That'll be the last call. Okay, so we're ready to vote. So the vote will be, a yes vote will be in favor of the amendment as put forth by Dr. Moore. A no vote will be not in favor or against the amendment put forth by Dr. Moore. Okay, everyone have that? So a yes is for the amendment, a no is against the amendment, and going back to the original motion. Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails 4-2. We're now back to the original motion of approving policy 418, drug-free workplace and drug-free school. And I believe, Dr. Moore, you have offered, if you'd like to go over the second, another amendment there.
Mr. Chair, I move to amend policy 418 by adding on page 418-6, 7A2, I'd like to add the words, students, add the words 18 or over, may be referred to drug or alcohol assistance. And then I'd like to add an additional paragraph, and I will read it. Students under 18 with parental guardian knowledge and consent may be referred to drug or alcohol assistance or rehabilitation programs, school-based mental health services, mentoring and counseling, including early identification of mental health symptoms, drug use, and violence, and appropriate referral to direct individual or group counseling services, which may be provided by school-based mental health service providers and/or referral to law enforcement officials when appropriate.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Is there a second for that amendment? Second? Is there a second for the motion to amend?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. And discussion. And again, once again, Dr. Moore, I will go back to you for, in support of to address your motion for
Yes,
amendment.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to save time, I have the same argument as before. And just with the addition that, well, I did say this, that I believe under Waltzell administration, whether it's systematic, we are systematically taking away parental rights. Thank you.
Further discussion. Once again, I will comment here regarding the reply from the district attorney. It says regarding the suggested amendment to policy 418, section 7A2, this similarly would create an additional burden to the district to obtain consent from parents prior to referring students to programs, school-based services, and law enforcement. There is no statutory requirement that the district obtain parental consent prior to making referrals to students. The current policy provides the district with the option to refer students to programs and services as appropriate. I would recommend the district notify parents of its concerns regarding their child and provide federal information to both parents and students. However, I would not add this requirement to policy 418 because it is not statutorily required, and then failing to meet this requirement exposes the district to claims of policy and violation. Therefore, I recommend the district keep the current policy and not adopt the proposed amendment. Is there further discussion?
I guess I would concur with Mr. Wolf's previous commentary. I'll be voting no against the amendment.
Further discussion? Be last call. Once again, we have an amendment, so a yes vote is in favor of the amendment as Dr. Moore proposed. A no vote is not in favor of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. Motion fails 4-2. Now we are back to the original policy, policy 418, drug-free workplace and drug-free school. We do have a motion and a second for approval of that policy. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we will vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1. Next, we'll move on to policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records. Is there a motion for approval of policy 515, protection and privacy of pupil records?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Discussion. And I believe,
Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Chairman.
Boudreau, you have an amendment, I believe.
It is my amendment. I have offered a similar amendment 2 times previously.
Okay.
This amendment is a little bit different because I added upon parental request. And this is, the intent of this is to allow parents to ask questions about their child's well-being while in school. And it is related to whether a child would have some gender confusion, maybe they're requesting to use a different name or pronoun, or they're requesting to receive some affirming care. And this is just to ensure that the parent is along with the child in experiencing whether it's a confusion or a dysphoria or whatever it is, that the parent is working along with them. And the reason I'm offering this now.
Ms. Boudreau, could you offer your amendment first?
Yes.
Move to amend, and then we can
I'm
come back for
sorry.
discussion. That's fine.
I'm sorry, so I offer this
You-
amendment on page 24, number 8B, and after language of 1E, insert
would you read what you wish to propose there? Read the rest of that paragraph, please.
You want me to read the entire thing?
Yes, I do.
Upon parental request, the responsible authority must not conceal or deliberately withhold information to a parent regarding their minor child's A, request to use a different name or pronoun to be recognized as a different gender, or request to receive gender-affirming care that involves medical interventions, including but not limited to puberty-blocking medications, hormone injections, or sex-altering surgeries.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreaux. We have a motion to amend policy 515 with the amendment Ms. Boudreaux offered. Is there a second for that amendment?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. And then discussion, and so Ms. Boudreaux, I'll come back to you now, and if you wish to continue addressing your amendment.
The impetus behind this that I think is important is because I've been reading that this fall, our Minnesota standards for English, literature, and arts will require our public schools to teach third graders how to use non-binary gender pronouns in sentence writing. And these 8- and 9-year-olds will then be tested on their ability to write sentences about people who identify as both male and female, or neither male nor female. I think parents may not even be aware of this, but I would say that parents certainly have the primary responsibility for the education of their children. And they are the ones that determine if a child's physical, mental, and emotional needs are being fully met at home and at school. And also, they are the ones that need to know if their child's experiencing some confusion, some distress, and other implications that may arise at this young, impressionable age. This amendment does not compel the district to directly inform a parent unless they ask. And when a parents ask, they expect the district will be truthful with them. And this amendment would ensure that. That is why I'm bringing it.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreaux.
Thank you.
Excuse me, further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll
Mr. Wolf.
go back to my previous comments around Ms. Moore's, and I apologize for the last one for forgetting about that email. Superintendent Venti, have you had a chance yet to send this request to our legal counsel?
This request has not been sent to our legal counsel, no.
Okay. I would, before I could support something like this, I would ask that it be sent to the legal counsel and then obviously back through the policy committee. This has roughly 1 page of legal references and roughly 1/3 of a page or so of cross-references. And once again, I just don't want to open us to a lawsuit of being in violation of whatever statute is out there. Once again, I understand the parent piece of it, Ms. Boudreaux. I also understand there's instances where, maybe there's not a great relationship with a parent and a child, and so I just would defer to send it back through the legal course if we could.
Ms. Steeves?
I agree with Mr. Wolf's sentiment. I guess this is just my opinion and my preference. I would say that all future amendments would go at least by our policy committee. I mean, the purpose of the policy committee is to review, edit, and eliminate policies and provide recommendations to the school board. I understand that it's all of our board member rights to propose amendments, but I need the opinion of those that are on the policy committee before I can frame. I also truly need the reference of an attorney. So I'll be voting no against this. And again, it's just my preference that any and all amendments would be discussed either at the first reading, at the policy committee, just so we have a little bit more than, I appreciate the 3 days notice, but more than 3 days notice.
Mr. Chair, I just
Dr.
want to
Moore.
mention that policy 515 we only looked at the revisions, so this was not part of the revisions. So technically, we did not look at it. So-
But the policy, much like 418, passed through the first reading with no commentary. So my comment would be, if you're coming with amendments, you're right, and that's wonderful. It would be my preference to talk about them early instead of at the second reading, kind of at the 11th hour. Again, 1 of 7, that would be my preference, to have the opinion of the policy committee, to have some time to, wrap my own brain around them, and also some legal review.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Boudreau?
Robert's Rules ensures my opportunity to offer an amendment on any of these policies. This is not the first time I've offered it, and it has been modified to to give a little more wiggle room if the parent requests, upon parental request. Perhaps we should look at some legal interpretation, because I did some research, and Rochester School District does have a policy such as this. It may not be worded exactly the way I have worded it, but it does ensure that they will not be sued when they do not inform the parents of what their children are going through, and the parents find out after some damage has already been done. So I feel strong about this, and I would just suggest to the board members, if you don't feel strong about it, you can vote no. But I think we need to be aware that 8- and 9-year-old kids are going to be learning all of these pronouns and putting them in sentences. And I think that is the responsibility of our State Department of Education to change. I think that is going to detract from our goals as a school board, which is all about achievement. This is a distraction, and I don't see it as helping us to get our scores up. I see it as extra time that has to be taken now to be taught something that maybe is inappropriate for that age. That is my opinion, and that is why I feel strongly about it. So I say let's vote, and you can vote the way you like.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. From what I'm hearing in discussion, board members, here is, in the amendment, is I see 2 ways, maybe 3, that we could go. 1, we vote on the amendment, and however that comes out, vote on the main motion. Or if you wish to do a subsidiary motion, because I heard Mr. Wolf, and we would need a motion on that, to refer back to the policy committee with recommendation to consult legal on the amendment, and then wait for that to come back. So there's 3 different ways that, if you wish, how you wish to do that. I'm just throwing out, that's what I have heard and what I've interpreted from the discussion. So if you wish to refer back to committee, I'd entertain a motion for that. Otherwise, I'm just about ready to vote on the amendment.
Mr. Chair, can I ask,
Mr.
Mr.
Wolf.
Benty, are you aware of what Ms. Boudreau is speaking about, and can you confirm that this is fact?
About Rochester
No,
schools?
about the new curriculum coming whenever it's coming, and we'll be teaching it to, did you say 3rd graders?
Yes.
3rd grade.
Are you aware of?
Per an email that she sent to me today, it shows that one of the benchmarks is non-gender or gender-neutral pronouns to be taught in 3rd grade. So,
Can I just ask a really dumb clarifying question? We've always taught students they, them, their, correct, right?
Not in the
Not-
gender sense, but yes, as in.
Because I learned that in 3rd grade.
yeah, but not in the gender sense of it, correct?
Okay.
Further discussion?
The pronouns, Cassie, and this is the article.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have no problem making a motion to send it back to policy and getting, legal counsel. I don't know if anybody else will second that or not, but
Okay.
I'm I'm good with that.
Okay, so we do have a motion now to refer to back to the policy committee for legal interpretation. Is there a second to that motion?
Second?
Did I hear a second from
Candace.
Ms. Knutson? Thank you. And discussion on that motion to refer to committee.
And legal.
Pardon me?
And legal.
And legal, correct.
Yes.
Yes, all
Mr.
good.
Chairman, I would encourage the committee to work out a solution that is fair to parents, and especially in light of the upcoming changes for 8 and 9-year-olds.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, not all parents go along with that agenda, so it's being unfair. It possibly could violate their civil rights.
Okay.
So we need to think about that too.
Mhm. I think that's why we're going to go to legal and go from there, so yes. So we have a motion and a second to refer this policy to committee and to legal. Any further discussion? Further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Motion passes 5-1. So we will refer policy 515 and the amendment put forward to the policy committee, asking them to send it to, ask you, Mr. Benty, I guess, to send it to our attorney, district attorney, and wait for it to come back and go to policy committee, and then policy committee come back with a recommendation.
So just to give you a brief timeline then, I will send this out to legal this week. Our next policy committee is the beginning of May. I'm not exactly sure, it's the 4th, 2nd,
April, right?
6th, there we go. It was
Not
one of
April?
those. No, there's
May.
not,
May.
it's May.
Okay.
So the earliest this would come back to the board would be at the business session in May,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
All right. With that, we'll move on to our last policy, policy 721, uniform grant guidance testing, uniform grant guidance policy regarding federal revenue sources. Is there a motion for approval of policy 721?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay, and discussion. And I believe, Dr. Moore, you wish to have a few comments on this.
yes, it would be on page 721-5. And it would be under, I think it's 4G, which should be 721-5. It'd be G on, it'd be the second to last paragraph, or third to the last. I'm just going to read that. The school district must take all necessary affirmative steps to assure that minority businesses, women's business enterprises, and then we had added veteran-owned businesses and labor surplus areas are considered. I guess my question is, under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, are we violating that by assuring that by using minority?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolf?
That's a question I'm asking.
when I read that, Dr. Moore, I just simply read it that the school district must take all necessary affirmative steps to assure that minority businesses, women business enterprises, veteran-owned businesses, and labor surplus area firms are considered. I don't believe that means awarded or contracted, or am I reading that incorrectly? I'm
Well,
taking it, my interpretation is that they're considered and that they are not thrown out or disregarded.
but under the Civil Rights Act, they should be all considered. Why do we even have to have that in there? You know, why don't we say all businesses that would?
That's a fair question.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
that, but
it's a fair question because it almost seems like it's leaning toward that, and we could get in trouble. I don't know why we can't look at all businesses, that would, if we probably have a job or something that that needs to be, all businesses could submit a bid. And so I think that's just asking for trouble with that one. So I just believe in fairness, all businesses should be, whether they be minority, veterans, whatever. But it's almost, there's an implication here that we're trying to favor these businesses. And if we favor all businesses, I don't think we even need that. It's just a potential problem, I'm afraid.
Any further discussion on policy 721?
When was the last time this was reviewed?
This one,
Uh,
I'm just looking here.
Is
Does it say?
it on the 3-year?
It was adopted May 23rd of 2022.
So it's on the
So
3-year.
this is the first revision.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, can I ask
Certainly may.
either Ms. Steves, Ms. Moore, or Mr. Venti, what does it mean when it states in here, note, this change appears in the 2024 amended UGG?
That's the name of the uniform grant guidance.
Okay. Thank you.
So this change was made to that document or policy in 2024. It has now come up for revision for us in 2025 because we look at everyone every 3 years. And this one, I believe, was sent to us by MSBA as well for a revision. So that they're just saying that note was made in there.
So, Ms. Moore, are you simply asking a question, or are you making an amendment?
I guess I would like to move, to make an amendment that we strike that paragraph. Because I think it's just asking for trouble. And I think we, as a school, we should give all businesses the opportunity to bid or on anything like that, so.
So Dr. Moore, would you rephrase your motion to amend?
Mr. Chair, I move to amend policy 721-5. It would be 4G, to strike that paragraph.
Understand. Okay, is there a second for that amendment? Is there a second for that amendment to policy 721? Last call, is there a second for that amendment for policy 721? Hearing no seconds, the motion to amend dies for lack of a second.
Bless.
We're back to policies, approval for policy 721. Any further discussion?
Can we have a roll call, please?
I will do a roll call on this one, yes, I will.
Mr. Chair, I would just once again suggest with any of these, this one has and I know the motion to amend failed, but this has roughly a 1 page of legal references and just a couple of cross references, but I would not support any change. I hear what Ms. Moore is saying. I won't support any change without knowing the legal ramifications and what our attorney would guide us towards. So.
Okay. Further discussion on policy 721. Last call. Okay, we are ready to vote. Wait a minute. So this is the amendment, correct?
No amendment.
There's no amendment. Thank you. I got confused there.
Vote
Okay.
on it.
So we're voting for approval of policy 721 as written. We've discussed it. All in favor of the motion signify by saying
Roll call,
aye.
please.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Dr. Moore. Thank you. Ms. Steves, will you do a roll call? I'm sorry.
Linda Boudreau,
Abstain.
Candace Knudsen. A yes vote would mean you,
Yes, that we stay with what we've got.
the policy as
We're voting on the policy,
revised.
Mhm.
just as it is.
Yes. Linda Moore,
No.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf,
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
With the abstention, 5-1. Passes.
Thank you.
right?
Yes, 5-1. Motion passes 5-1. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 8D. Approve second reading of rescission of policy 537, positive school expectations policy. Could I have a motion to approve the rescission of policy 537?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Woodrow. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And discussion. either, I think for the record, Dr. Moore, Ms. Steves, or Mr. Benty, if you would just explain why we were rescinding this policy would be, for the public, would be good.
So we are rescinding this policy because all of these fall in the student handbooks and the policies that are reflected in the student handbooks.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, right? Right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Discussion? Any further discussion? We're ready to vote. All in favor of the rescission of policy 537 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to agenda item 9, other committees' reports. Finance Committee. I have a report from the Finance Committee. That committee met a week ago today, March 10th. Remember, I give you the updated one. These minutes are not approved, but I will tell you what was discussed and approved within the Finance Committee. First of all, in contracts, agreements, bids, and grants for review, we approved the MetLife dental coverage renewal for fiscal year 26, which is July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. That dental insurance coverage will be increasing by 8%. Our financial performance, our February student counts. Ms. Raisler pointed out to the committee that we have seen an increase this month over last month in our student count by 21 students. Most of the student increase came in at the Faribault Online Academy. Principal Joel Olson mentioned that not all students were necessarily full-time at FOA. Rather, some could just be part-time and enrolled there. Also, overall, with our student counts, Faribault we're down 44 students as to what we have budgeted for in fiscal year 25. Our February comparative financial report, our HVAC has seen a significant increase compared to where we were last year. Ms. Racer looked into reasons for the increase in the past 2 months with Kane Smith, who's our Director of Building and Grounds, because we had those very cold snaps, which in turn require our heating system to work harder, and he was not surprised by the increase in those costs. Water and electricity are either right on par with last year or down due to the continued rebates that we receive on electricity as well. As far as self-insurance, we are still down by around $195,000 as compared to the revenue we've brought in so far this year. We've seen significantly higher claims so far, and Ms. Raisler mentioned to the Finance Committee that the rising costs of insurance and reported a possible 12% or higher increase in premiums beginning in July for anyone continuing with our self-insured program. And more information will be coming out that next month, I believe, the board will be acting on that, because there was a insurance committee meeting this afternoon. Our February investment report, our cash and investments are in a very healthy position. We continue to do well, particularly in our investments, having received $31,000 from interest in the month of February. Our February analytics, we are right on track with where we thought we would be at this point in the year, and there's nothing out of the ordinary. Our financial strategies, our update on a revised budget. So in the past, Faribault Public Schools the board has been always presented 3 budgets per year to the school board. An adopted budget in June prior to the new fiscal year, and 2 revised budgets, one in February and one in June of the current fiscal year. Ms. Raisler suggests that would like to present just 2 budgets going for the next year forward as required by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. She is proposing that the district would present to the board and us and the public an adopted budget in June prior to the start of the new fiscal year, as we've done in the past, but then only a single revised budget the following May. She has discussed this with Superintendent Benty and did receive approval for the submission of this process. The major benefit of doing this is that there would be a clear separation of years and would make presentations cleaner. I know for me personally, it was always, you had a budget and then all of a sudden, about this time of year, you got a revised budget and then we do another revised one. So it cleans it up and processes, especially with our excellent clean audits. I believe we're in very good shape there. Then just quickly, an update on our bank transfers here to Reliance Bank. The district is still in the process of submitting the final paperwork, but should have our new account up and running soon. In the meantime, we're still continuing to rely on CCF Bank for all our daily business needs. So again, much more detail was discussed in the meeting. I just take the highlights to report to you, and we go from there. So with that, agenda item 9B, you get to listen to me again. So as the board designee of the Ice Arena board, I attended a meeting on February 19th at the Ice Arena, and we discussed mostly the finances with the Ice Arena, and overall we are in very good financial shape in the Ice Arena. We discussed the chiller. If you remember, I think it was a year and a half or so ago, the chiller was going out in the Ice Arena, and it was over $600,000 to replace that chiller, which we did. $200,000 to each entity, the city of Faribault, Faribault Public Schools, and the Hockey Association. So, and that installation is going well and in pieces, and will be pretty well wrapped up by June, July for that to get going. They did have a scare of the chiller actually going down in early January, and with the hockey tournament up looming, the squirts and the peewees, et cetera. But I guess they had people working there at 2 a.m. That company came down at 2 a.m. and got it going, and were able to hold our tournament. So hats off to them. But very enlightening board, and they were very happy to see representation from the Faribault Public Schools of Mr. Kane Smith, Mr. Shane Gunderson, and myself at that committee meeting. So it was a great group, very interesting, and great group to be a part of. So agenda item 9C, report on the facilities committee. So Dr. Moore and Mr. Wolf, I'll let you take over here.
Well, do I repeat what I said?
I think for the record it'd be good.
Okay. As far as the facilities committee met on March 13th, last Thursday, and for the 2025 lawn service quotes, this would be including 3 applications for all of the schools. I was running out of ink that day, so I think it was ProTurf and Falon, if that is the correct one. They said the income, I think ProTurf, they had the lowest bid on all of the schools. And I believe, as Kane Smith said, noted that they are the incumbent and he's worked with them. I did ask about their safety standards in applying the solutions. And Kane Smith seemed to think that they do adhere to the highest safety standards. So that was one of the things we talked about. One of them was the HVAC, testing and balancing for air and water. And there was actually 5 contractors. And Kane is going to get back to us on some of that. I don't know if you want to embellish more about that. So he's going to get back to that on that. Also, there was, I think he also spoke about the glycol to replace it in the pipes for Jefferson. I believe, if I got my numbers right, was it 40,000? Was that it? And it would be good for 30 years. I think McKinley, 25,000, I believe. So add something, Chad, because I'm not really.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, other matters. 10A is gifts and donations, resolution 25-26. Our donations here in resolution 25-26 are as following. The following donations were received for the Roosevelt Community School Bingo and Bites event. Hy-Vee Grocery donated $75 worth of food. Hart donated various toys, games, household items, etc. Quick Trip donated $100 of gift cards and cookies. Jenny O donated various beef and poultry items valued at $550. Carlander Cattle Company donated $105. Following donations were received for the Nest. Donna Crowell donated 3 bags of business professional clothes. Jeannie Johnson donated 15 articles of clothing. The State Bank of Faribault donated $274. Also in our donations, the Hannah Lips Foundations donated $2,500 to Faribault High School Activities Department for athletic trainer contract. And also in our donations, the Hannah Lips Foundations donated $7,050 to Project Able to support the bowling program, trips, and scholarship fund. Could I have a motion to approve Resolution 2526, accepting gifts donations as I have read?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Dr.
I just
Moore.
want to give a big shout out to Hannah Lips Foundation. I think they're a great foundation. I know when we had our Language Learning Center, a nonprofit organization, Kathy Oakland and I, they were always willing to donate to us. And I think especially, that was quite a large donation when you add the two of them together. So thank you to Hannah Lips.
Thank you. Further comments, discussion?
I think the board is very grateful for the gifts that we receive. All donations are appreciated, and it's hard to express enough from us
It is.
how much it is needed and appreciated, so thank you. And affirm that.
Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Steves, this is a resolution, so would you do a roll call, please?
Linda Boudreau,
Aye.
Candace Knutson, Linda Moore,
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf,
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Passes 6-1.
6-0. That's a 6-0. Thank you. Agenda item 10B, consider approval of the MetLife dental coverage renewal for fiscal year 26, which is July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Do I have a motion for approval of the MetLife dental coverage renewal?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Discussion, I think I explained that in the finance report. Ms. Raisler, I don't think, not much more to say. 8% increase, I believe, and things like that. So, other comments, discussion? Okay, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. 10C, consider approval of resolution number 25-25, probationary teachers to be non-renewed for the 2025-2026 school year. Could I have a motion for approval of resolution 25-25?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. I will second it. And discussion.
Mr. Chair, just to point out that we are on resolution 25-25, but in our packet, it says resolution 24-25. So just a clarification there.
Could you clarify?
Would you repeat that, please, Mr. Wolf?
Well, so
Yeah.
in the header, if you will, of 10C,
Yes.
it says resolution number 25-25.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But then in one of the attachments, it's labeled resolution 24-25. So just for clarity purposes.
Excellent. Really no need to adjust that at that point, right? Okay.
Yeah, in fact, when you click in there, it does say resolution 25-25.
Okay.
So just
Great, thank you. Good catch. So, this is always a hard one to discuss about because we never like to release anyone. This is a hard one, but I think for clarification, the number of the people who are teachers who are on this list are non-renewed, basically from my understanding of licensure. When you teach in a licensure not germane, or you have a licensure which is not germane to what you're teaching, by law, I think Ms. Yocum will agree that by law we have to release them, and then we have to apply then or post it, hoping a licensed teacher. Why don't you come up and explain? You do a much better job than I do with that, and that's why the majority of these people are on that list, just for clarification.
Good evening. Yes, so on the list, there's a handful of teachers on there, and there's typically 3 different reasons why they would be on the non-renewal list. The first one would be because they have, or they either have the wrong license for their assignment, or they have a provisional license, which is typically a 1 or a 2-year license. Second reason would be for our budget reductions that we did a few weeks or about a month ago, and then the third would be for performance. And so the way the license piece works is if they don't have the correct license, the state allows us to apply for what's called an out-of-field permission, and that would be for a teacher who has gone through a teacher prep program, and they have a teacher license, but it's just not in the right subject matter. And so we can get them a 1-year license to have special approval to teach outside of their license for a different assignment. Another option would be if they do not hold a teacher license at all, but they have a bachelor's degree, we can apply for a Tier 1 license, and that license is good for 1 year. Those are common in some specialized areas, especially career tech ed positions and so forth. And then there is a couple other options to apply for a Tier 2 license, and that's typically if they've become licensed in a different state, but they haven't fulfilled the Minnesota requirements to be licensed here. They can get a 2-year license to allow them time to complete their program in Minnesota and turn it into a Minnesota license.
I should have called you up here to begin with, Ms. Yoakum. That was much better than what I tried to explain, so, yes, so, thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Question?
I just have a question. You mentioned before that the teachers that we are letting go now, they can resubmit their application, correct? If they get the proper license, correct?
Yes, any of these teachers have the opportunity to apply for any of our openings. If they are applying for a position that they are still unlicensed to teach, we have to post the position for 60 days. And then after that 60 days is up, we can interview them and determine if they're the most qualified candidate and hire them on a conditional or a conditional contract, and then apply for a license with the state in July. So we're kind of in limbo a little bit. If they don't have the right license, we have to wait until July 1st in order to apply for a license for them.
And what you said, I really appreciate that. I think it's so important that we hire the most qualified teacher.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we thank them for their service and wish them well.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreaux. Any further discussion? Last call for discussion. Okay, Ms. Steves, this is a resolution, so a roll call, please.
Linda Boudreaux.
Aye.
Candace Knutson.
Aye.
Linda Moore.
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wilk.
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. 10D, consider approval of resolution number 25-27. I know it says on our, I think it says 24-27, but I'm going to go with what's written here for me. Probationary administrator to be non-renewed for the 2025-2026 school year. Is there a motion for resolution number 25-27?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreaux. And Ms. Yoakum, since you're right there, I'll have you just, I know what it is, but I'll just have you quickly explain what the reason.
Sure. So a licensed administrator falls under the same process because in terms of the state, they're still considered by definition a teacher. So we still have one of the 3 reasons for non-renewing a probationary administrator, and that would be either a license issue, a budgetary issue, or performance issue.
Thank you. Discussion, anyone?
I would thank this person for their service as well. I think they've done a good job.
Great. Discussion? Discussion? Ms. Steves, another roll call, please.
Linda Boudreaux.
Aye.
Candace Knutson.
Aye.
Linda Moore.
Aye.
Cassie Steves, aye. Chad Wolf.
Aye.
John Bellingham.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Yoakum. Agenda item number 11, dates to remember. March 28th, 2025, joint boards meeting, 11 o'clock a.m. at Buckham West. April 7th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. is our work session. April 10th, 7:45 a.m. Facilities Committee meeting, that's virtual, I believe, April 14th, 2025. Finance Committee meeting, that is virtual at 7:30 a.m. April 21st, 5:30 p.m. Business meeting, right here, and April 28th, 2025 at 3 o'clock p.m., our another board retreat. With that, agenda item number 12, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, come on.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Steves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Knutson. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?